The sharp clatter of heavy silverware striking delicate bone china rings through Montrose, one of those old-money Manhattan steakhouses where the servers glide between tables in tailored jackets that likely cost more than most people's rent. Crystal glasses catch the low amber light. Conversations hum in muted tones, meant to signal wealth without appearing to try. I sit at the head of a long table set for 8, watching as the waiter tilts a bottle of Cabernet with theatrical precision. The deep red wine spirals into my father's glass. Another $300 quietly added to what I already know will be my bill. Across from me, Arthur Holloway swirls his wine as though he personally financed the vineyard. At 60, his silver hair remains thick and perfectly styled, his Brooks Brothers suit impeccably tailored. He still carries himself like a corporate titan, despite the inconvenient detail that he hasn't drawn a paycheck in 5 years. "How's the market treating you, Adrian?" he asks casually. He doesn't care about the market, he cares about the mortgage. "It's steady," I reply, keeping my tone clipped and neutral. I've been a senior investment analyst long enough to decode him. "How's the market?" really means when's the next transfer. My mother, Eleanor, sits beside him, the diamonds on her tennis bracelet scattering light across the tablecloth as she lifts her water glass. At 58, she still radiates country club elegance. Blonde highlights refreshed every 6 weeks, skin taut from whatever discreet procedure was done last month. "Adrian, sweetheart," she says warmly, though calculation flickers behind her eyes. "Did I mention Chloe and Spencer finally secured their venue?" There it is, the reason for the dinner. Chloe beams from across the table, her 3-carat engagement ring sparkling like a spotlight beneath the chandelier. Spencer Davenport III sits beside her, tall, pleasant, and bland in that generational wealth way, the kind of man who has never had to cultivate depth because inheritance handles that for him. "It's this stunning estate in Tuscany," Chloe gushes, "a 16th century villa with vineyards and private chefs. It's magical." Spencer nods in agreement, smiling politely. Julian, my older brother, exchanges a subtle glance with his wife Maya. At 32, Julian escaped the family's expectations by becoming a teacher, the quiet one, the one who slipped through unnoticed. Maya squeezes his hand under the table. My Aunt Beatrice observes the unfolding performance over the rim of her martini glass, detached and knowing. "The villa is exquisite," Eleanor continues smoothly, guiding the conversation exactly where she wants it. She pauses delicately. "I'll send you the wiring details." Silence falls. 8 sets of eyes settle on me. I take a slow sip of water, steadying myself against the weight pressing into my chest. "Actually," I begin, keeping my voice calm, "I can't cover $15,000 right now. I'm building my emergency savings." The silence that follows is absolute. Spencer suddenly becomes fascinated by the pattern on his napkin. Julian's eyebrows lift slightly. Even the waiter approaching with bread hesitates, then discreetly retreats. Arthur breaks the quiet with a short, sharp laugh. "Savings," he repeats loudly, drawing the attention of nearby tables. "Your job is to earn." He leans forward, lowering his voice to that controlled register that has made my stomach twist since childhood. "Tell me, Adrian, how does it feel being the only useless ATM here?" Laughter ripples around the table, forced and bright. Chloe giggles. Eleanor smiles thinly. I freeze for a second as the sound hits me like something solid. Suddenly, I'm 10 years old again, seated at our dining room table, when my mother assigns our identities as if distributing roles in a play. "Julian is the dreamer," she says, ruffling his hair. "Chloe is our beauty," she kisses my sister's cheek. Then she looks at me. "And you, Adrian? You're the smart one. You're our retirement plan." The memory shifts. I'm 24, drowning in student loans when my phone rings. Eleanor's voice trembles through hospital background noise. "If we lose the house," she whispers, "the stress will kill me. My life depends on you." That night, I agreed to help, just temporarily. 5 years later, I'm still paying. The present snaps back into focus. The laughter continues, but something inside me, worn thin and sharpened by 3 months of therapy, finally fractures. I smile. Not my usual accommodating smile. Something colder. "You're right, Dad," I say calmly, placing my fork down. "A useless ATM should probably be out of service." The laughter dies instantly. "Adrian," Eleanor hisses softly, "don't cause a scene." "I'm not," I reply. "I'm done." I pull out my phone. My fingers move with deliberate precision. First, I'm canceling Monday's $4,000 mortgage transfer. Tap. Done. My mother's complexion pales. Next, I'm blocking both of you on Zelle and Venmo. Tap. Done. Arthur's face reddens dangerously. I place my corporate card on the table. "This covers my meal and wine. The rest is yours." Arthur stands abruptly, napkin falling. "You ungrateful, after everything we've given you?" I rise too, feeling taller than ever. "What have you given me?" I ask evenly. "I paid for my Ivy League degree. I pay your mortgage. I fund your lifestyle. I glance around the table. I'm finished. I walk out, heels echoing sharply against marble floors. Conversations hush. The night air outside hits my lungs like oxygen after years underwater. In the Uber, crawling through Manhattan traffic, my phone vibrates relentlessly. Eleanor, you'll kill me with this stress. Is that what you want? Arthur, fix this now. This tantrum ends today. Chloe, the venue won't wait. You've ruined everything. My hands tremble. I've never defied them in 29 years. Tears threaten, but I swallow them down. I don't respond. Then another message appears. Julian, are you okay? That was incredible. I stare at it. My brother has never openly supported me before. 6 words, and yet they feel monumental. Something warm and fragile sparks inside me. The next morning, I call in sick. It's not entirely false. The idea of pretending normalcy while my phone erupts makes my stomach churn. I dress simply in jeans and a sweater, instead of the sharp blazer Arthur always insisted I wore. At my financial advisor's office, Mark Wilson greets me with concern. I need a full audit, I say, every dollar that's left my accounts in 5 years. 2 hours later, the total sits at the bottom of a spreadsheet, $350,000. The number glows like something malignant. 350,000. I repeat softly. Vindication mixes with nausea. I wasn't imagining it. But Mark isn't finished. He pulls up my credit report. 3 credit cards, 1 personal loan, all opened 2 years ago, all mailed to my parents' address. The balances total $60,000. They opened accounts in my name? Mark nods. This is identity theft, Adrian. Criminal fraud. The realization is sobering. This isn't just family dysfunction. It's a felony. I think of Arthur's pride, Eleanor's convenient health crises, the manipulation. The panic from last night evaporates, replaced with clarity. I call my therapist. Dr. Hammond, I need a referral. A financial litigation attorney, the best one. She gives me a name, Cynthia Blackwell, ruthless in financial crime cases. The rest of the day, I file fraud reports and freeze accounts. With each step, my resolve strengthens. By afternoon, the tone of my parents' messages shifts from rage to confusion to fear. Arthur, what did you do? The card declined. Eleanor, the bank called about the mortgage. Call me immediately. I remain silent. Monday passes. The mortgage deadline comes and goes. My phone buzzes nonstop until I silence it entirely. 12 minutes of peace before voicemails begin. The first is Eleanor, voice trembling. Adrian, please. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Delete. The second arrives an hour later, her tone sharper. After everything I sacrificed for you, carrying you, choosing your schools, this is how you repay me? Delete. By afternoon, the messages turn dark. You are tearing this family apart. Your father can't sleep. I can't eat. Is that what you want? To destroy us? I set my phone down, surprised by my own calm. In the past, these messages would have sent me into a spiral of guilt and panic. Now they sound like what they are. The desperate flailing of people who've lost their grip on their favorite puppet. My therapist calls this progress. I call it clarity. The buzzer to my apartment sounds at 7:14 p.m. I check the security feed on my phone, expecting a food delivery. Instead, I see my father's face, contorted with rage as he jabs the button again and again. I watch, transfixed, as Arthur screams at my doorman, his suit jacket rumpled, his silver hair standing on end. I need to see my daughter. Now. This is a family emergency. The doorman, Hector, remains impassive. Sir, if Miss Vance wanted to see you, she would have authorized your entry. Do you know who I am? Arthur's face flushes darker. I'm paying for this building. My money bought this place. I watch Hector's expression shift from polite to cold. Sir, I need you to leave the premises immediately, or I will call the police. Arthur takes a step toward him, finger pointed like a weapon. You listen to me, you little... That's enough. Hector reaches for the phone. I'm calling the police now. The threat of police involvement deflates my father instantly. His shoulders sag. He runs a hand through his disheveled hair, suddenly remembering he's Arthur Holloway, respected community member, not some common criminal. Fine, he mutters. Just tell her I was here. He leaves, but 20 minutes later, a folded piece of paper slides under my door. I pick it up, recognizing my father's aggressive handwriting, the pen having nearly torn through the paper in places. You owe us. Fix this. Just 4 words. Not, I love you, or let's talk this out, or even, I'm sorry. Just a demand, underlined 3 times, the entitlement radiating from the page. I place it carefully in a folder marked Evidence. My phone chimes with a text. Chloe, right on cue. Addie, Mom is having heart palpitations. She's so worried. The doctor says it's stress-induced. Can you please just pay it? I'm so scared for her health. The familiar knot forms in my stomach. My sister's specialty, the guilt bomb. 3 months ago, this message would have sent me running for my laptop, ready to make the transfer while apologizing for causing such distress. Instead, I remember the $60,000 in fraudulent debt, the credit cards opened in my name, the loans I never saw. I feel nothing but disgust at the coordinated attack. I text back a single word, no. Then I block her number too. Wednesday morning, I call my therapist. Doctor, Lillian Fisher has been seeing me for 3 months. Not long in therapy terms, but long enough to recognize an emergency. I can fit you in at noon, she says, hearing something in my voice. Her office smells of leather and Earl Grey tea. I sit in the worn armchair, recounting the events of the past 48 hours. I expect to cry. I've always cried in this room, talking about my family. But today there are no tears, just cold, hard anger. They stole from me, I say, my voice steady. They manipulated me, and now they're trying to use the same tactics to force me back into line. Dr. Fisher nods. What's different this time? I see it now, all of it. The patterns, the manipulation, the lies. She smiles, not with joy, but with recognition. You weren't a victim, Adrian. You were a survivor of a long-term emotional siege. Now, you're a strategist. Strategist. The word feels right, like armor. So what does a strategist do next? I ask. She prepares her battlefield. Thursday morning, I meet my new lawyer. Martin Cohen's office is nothing like the plush, wood-paneled spaces I imagined. It's stark, utilitarian, and absolutely packed with files. His handshake is firm, his gaze direct. Let me understand, he says, reviewing the notes from my financial advisor. Your parents have been systematically draining your accounts for 5 years, to the tune of $350,000. Yes. And now we've discovered $60,000 in fraudulent debt taken out in your name. Yes. He removes his glasses, polishing them slowly. Miss Vance, I've been practicing law for 27 years. I've seen a lot of financial abuse cases. He puts his glasses back on, his eyes magnified and serious. This is our leverage. This is everything. For the next week, I become document archaeologist. I dig through 5 years of financial records. I get sworn affidavits from my financial advisor, documenting the steady drain on my accounts. I pull every bank statement, highlighting the transfers. $4,000 here, $15,000 there. Death by 1,000 cuts. I save the voicemails. I print the text from Chloe. I screenshot the security footage of my father threatening my doorman. Each piece of evidence makes me stronger. Each record strips away another layer of guilt. By the following Wednesday, I have a file 3 inches thick, documenting 5 years of systematic financial and emotional abuse, culminating in a felony. I am ready. I sit in Martin Cohen's office, my hands steady as I dial my parents' number. The call is on speakerphone and being recorded, with Martin sitting silently across from me. My mother answers on the first ring. Adrian? Oh, thank God. Mom, Dad, I've reviewed my finances. I'm willing to have one meeting to discuss this. The relief in Eleanor's voice is palpable. Oh, thank goodness, Addie. We knew you'd do the right thing. Your father found a lovely Italian restaurant for... It won't be at a restaurant. My voice is cool, professional. It will be at my lawyer's office. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Be there. I hang up before she can respond. The silence on the other end was a perfect sudden void. Martin nods. Just once. Well done. The power has shifted. They know they've lost control. The next morning, Martin and I sit in a sterile conference room. The clock on the wall reads 9:57 a.m. My case file sits between us, neatly labeled and organized. At precisely 10 a.m., his assistant opens the door. Arthur and Eleanor walk in, looking annoyed and entitled. Eleanor wears her pearl necklace, her armor for difficult social situations. Arthur's suit is freshly pressed, his posture rigid with indignation. They sit down across from us, clearly expecting to browbeat their daughter back into submission. They have no idea what's waiting for them. All right, Adrian, my father begins, his voice carrying that familiar note of authority that once made me shrink. This little tantrum has gone on long enough. We're willing to accept your apology and... Mr. and Mrs. Holloway? Richard interrupts, his voice cool and professional. This is not a negotiation. We're here to inform you of your options. He slides a file across the table. This is a copy of a police report we have already filed with the NYPD for identity theft. My mother's hand freezes halfway to the folder. It details $60,000 in fraudulent credit cards and loans opened in your daughter's name. Richard continues. We have the statements, the applications, and the IP logs. I watch their faces transform. My mother's skin turns the color of chalk, her fingers clutching her designer purse like a life preserver. My father's complexion does the opposite, flushing a dangerous shade of purple that climbs from his collar to his hairline. How dare you? My father slams his fist against the table, making the water glasses jump. This is a family matter. You'd send your own parents to jail over a misunderstanding? My mother's eyes fill with tears. Not the delicate, dignified kind she displays at country club functions, but the messy, desperate kind that smear her mascara. Adrian, how could you? Her voice breaks, her hands reaching across the table. I pull mine back. After all the sacrifices we made, we just needed a little help. You have so much. It was your obligation. There it is, the guilt bomb. The emotional nuclear option my therapist prepared me for. The weapon they've deployed countless times over the years whenever I showed the slightest resistance. I sit perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap. I watch my mother's performance, the trembling lip, the heaving shoulders, and search for the familiar ache in my chest, the crushing weight of responsibility that's been my constant companion. And find nothing. Not anger, not hurt, just a vast, cool emptiness where the guilt used to live. I turn to my lawyer and nod once. Richard continues as if they hadn't spoken. His voice as calm as if we were discussing the weather. As I said, the report is filed. This is a non-negotiable step required by the credit bureaus to clear Adrian's name. The DA is very interested. My father's face twists with rage. I recognize the expression, the same one he wore when I announced I wouldn't be paying for Chloe's car insurance anymore, the look that once sent me scrambling to appease him. However, Richard says, removing another document from his portfolio, Adrian has spoken with the district attorney. She will advocate for probation instead of jail time. My mother looks up, hope flickering across her tear-stained face. On one condition, Richard slides the second document forward. You agree to full immediate restitution of the $60,000. My father barks a laugh, sharp and bitter. We don't have $60,000, you know that. Which is why, Richard says, sliding over a second set of documents, you will be putting your 5-bedroom home on the market. Today, the sale will be handled by an escrow company we've selected to ensure the $60,000 is paid directly to the creditors. The silence that follows is absolute. I watch the truth settle over them like ash. They are trapped. It's either sign the papers or face a felony conviction. Their family matter has become a legal execution. My father's hands, the same hands that once ruffled my hair when I brought home straight A's, the same hands that signed loan applications in my name, begin to tremble. My mother's shoulders slump, the fight draining out of her like air from a punctured balloon. You can't be serious, my father says, but the bluster is gone. His voice sounds old suddenly, hollow. Your daughter is deadly serious, Richard replies. Sign the papers or the DA moves forward with charges. Your choice. My mother looks at me, really looks at me, perhaps for the first time in years, not as the retirement plan, not as the ATM, but as a person with boundaries. She's violated. How will we live? She whispers. The words should sting. They should activate the caretaker programming buried deep in my DNA. But I think of the $350,000 I've already given them. I think of the lies, the manipulation, the identity theft. I think of 5 years of my life spent working 60-hour weeks to maintain their lifestyle while neglecting my own future. That, I say, my voice soft but steady, is not my problem anymore. My father's jaw works, his pride warring with his self-preservation. Finally, he reaches for the pen Richard offers. This isn't over, he mutters as he signs, but we both know it is. As his pen scratches across the paper, I feel something in my chest loosen, a knot I've carried for so long I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. The meeting ends quickly after that. No tearful goodbyes, no promises to stay in touch, just the cold efficiency of paperwork being processed, of boundaries being erected. Outside the office, standing on the sidewalk in the bright New York morning, I take a breath that feels different than any I've taken in 5 years. Lighter, cleaner. My phone buzzes in my purse.
A text from Julian. How did it go? I look at the screen for a moment, then type. It's done. I'm free. The Holloway's pristine white 5-bedroom colonial hits the market on a Tuesday next week. By Wednesday afternoon, the listing has 37 saves and 12 showing requests. By Thursday morning, their friends are texting. Downsizing? asks the country club president's wife. Retirement property in Florida? Suggests Eleanor's bridge partner. My mother doesn't answer any of them. For the first time in her 58 years, Eleanor Holloway has nothing to say. The shame of it silences her more effectively than any argument ever could. I watch it all from a distance, not with joy, but with a cold, steady clarity. The weight I've carried for 5 years has lifted. My shoulders straighten a little more each day. My breathing deepens. My therapist calls it reclaiming your power. I call it survival. Julian calls me on Friday night. It's like watching a meteor hit, he says, his voice low, as if Arthur might overhear him even though he's calling from his own home. Mom hasn't left her bedroom in 3 days. Dad just sits in his study drinking scotch. Are they asking you for money yet? I ask, running my finger along the edge of my kitchen counter. The pause tells me everything. They tried, he finally admits. I said no. I smile. She nods, grateful. Later, as she sleeps on my couch, I stand at my window watching the city lights. I think about how parents are supposed to protect their children, not use them as collateral. 2 weeks later, I receive an email from the escrow company. The sale of the Holloway's estate is complete. The $60,000 in fraudulent debt has been paid in full. My credit score has already jumped 47 points. My lawyer calls to inform me that Arthur and Eleanor have been forced to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in a building with no doorman, no elevator, and no prestige. The remaining money from the sale after the mortgage payoff and my restitution barely covered their security deposit. They didn't even look at me when they signed the papers, I tell my therapist later that week. Not once. How did that make you feel? She asks. Nothing, I reply. I felt nothing at all. 3 months pass. Chloe moves to Boston for a fresh start. Julian and Maya have me over for dinner twice a month. I cook more. I sleep better. I date a little. I breathe. Then, on a Tuesday evening as I'm reviewing quarterly projections, my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost ignore it, but something makes me answer. Adrian. My father's voice. Smaller. Older. It's your dad. I say nothing. We're having trouble with the deposit on the new apartment, he says, a tremor in his voice. I just thought, maybe. 5 years ago, those words would have sent me scrambling for my laptop, ready to transfer whatever sum was needed to maintain the peace. That is not my problem, I say, my voice steady. A long pause. I can hear him breathing. Adrian, please. I end the call without another word. I feel no guilt, no lingering obligation, just a quiet, certain freedom. I block the number without a second thought and turn back to my laptop. The spreadsheet open on the screen has a new title. Condo down payments. I'm looking at 2 bedrooms with views of Central Park. The useless daughter has become the only one who escaped. 18 months later, morning sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting golden rectangles across hardwood floors. I stand in my new 2-bedroom condo overlooking Central Park, coffee mug warm in my hands. The view still stops me in my tracks sometimes, a living, breathing tapestry of green amid Manhattan's concrete and steel. My phone pings with a calendar reminder. Housewarming party, 7 p.m. I smile. The $60,000 in restitution made for a perfect down payment on this place. Justice with a view. Last week, I ran into Spencer at a financial conference. He mentioned seeing Arthur stocking shelves at Kroger. Eyes down, shoulders hunched. His criminal record for fraud made him permanently unemployable in the financial sector. Eleanor works as a part-time cashier at the same store. Her social circle vanished like morning fog. The mighty Holloways, brought low by their own greed. I don't feel the satisfaction I once imagined. Just peace. The doorbell rings at 6:58 p.m. Julian and Maya arrive first, arms loaded with grocery bags. We're making the drinks, Julian announces, kissing my cheek. My brother moves through my kitchen with easy familiarity, pulling out bottles and glasses. Maya arranges a platter of appetizers. Your place looks amazing, Adri. The condo fills quickly. My therapist brings homemade bread. My financial advisor arrives with his husband, both admiring the view. Former colleagues, new friends. Warmth and laughter replace the tense, performative dinners of my past. This isn't an obligation disguised as celebration. This is mine. The doorbell rings again at 8:15. I open the door to find Chloe standing there, hands clutching a brown paper bag. She looks smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. The perfect blowout is gone, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Adrian, she says, her voice barely audible above the party noise. I'm in therapy. I'm working at a coffee shop.
I am so sorry. For everything. She holds out the bag. Inside is a bottle of wine. $15 according to the price tag she forgot to remove. The symmetry isn't lost on me. $15 for a bottle, instead of $15,000 for a deposit. The old Adrian would have rushed to comfort her, to say it was all okay, to erase her discomfort at the expense of my own, the caretaker, the fixer, the retirement plan. I study my sister's face, seeing not my mother's pawn, but Chloe herself. Humbled. Human. Thank you for coming, Chloe, I say simply, stepping aside to let her in. It's not absolution. It's not instant forgiveness. It's a door, barely open, on my terms. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I glance at the screen. An email from my mother. I delete it without reading. My parents were not invited. Later, when the noise inside grows too loud, I step onto the balcony. The park stretches below, streetlights tracing its paths like strings of pearls. Behind me, glasses clink and laughter rises. Julian tells a story that makes everyone howl. Chloe sits quietly in a corner, talking with Maya. I take a sip of wine and feel the cool air on my face. For 29 years, I lived as someone's investment, someone's safety net, someone's ATM. Standing here, watching the city light shimmer against the darkening sky, I am none of those things. I am just Adrian, and I am free.